2025 is halfway done, and this year, honestly, so far for board games has been super strong. So let's go ahead and talk about our favorite games of the year so far.
What's up, everybody? My name is Nick.
I'm Mike.
We are the Brothers Murph, and that's right. We're going to talk about our favorite games of the year so far. We started doing this a couple of years ago. It's always been really fun.
It's such a good year so far, dude. It's been low-key rad.
Halfway through the year, they're like, okay, there's like 10 games we like pretty well. This year has been really, really good. And we will have another top 10 over on our Patreon of 10 more games that we really, really like from this year. And maybe they're coming out a little bit later this year that we've already played. But yeah, this year has been really, really strong. And it's been just a really, really good time.
It's been really solid, yeah. So we're going to talk about games as kind of our mid-year Oscars right here. Some of these games could very well show up on our best games of the year.
Some will,
at the end of the year, I think there's some that are pretty solid for that.
Yeah.
But let's go ahead and talk about 10 awesome games.
Hey everybody, just want to say first of all, that's not a spanking paddle, that's a cribbage board. Second of all, usually at this point is where we do some kind of silly sketch or do something to try to get people to subscribe. But occasionally I think it's good to just be like, hey, we would really appreciate it if you hit that subscribe button. I know it sounds silly, I know content creators constantly talk about it, but it does really, really help us if you do so. We really bust our butts on all of these videos and stuff like that. And we would really, really appreciate it if you subscribed. We would love to hit 60,000 subscribers by the end of the year. That'd be really, really awesome. So if you like what we do, if we ever liked what we do, if you're enjoying this video, hit that subscribe button, turn the bell on, like, comment down below, all that different kind of stuff. We would really appreciate it. Let's get back. That's not a spanking paddle. Number 10 is going to be Raising Chicago. This is a game that kind of came out of nowhere. We did a playthrough of this for Capstone Gaming. We hadn't really...
Do check it out.
Yes, indeed. There's actually playthroughs for many of these games. We'll try to mention them when we have done them. But this game, we hadn't really heard of it. It's the Spielworks games, so not all of their games come over to the United States, but this one did because of Capstone. And this is a game about raising up Chicago. This is around a time where Chicago was actively trying to become a bigger city and was actively like raising up their buildings.
Like literally physically raising them.
Like while people were living in them. There's actually a little history blurb at the back of the rulebook, which is really cool. And they were kind of getting like old wooden buildings out of town and putting in more like concrete buildings. Yeah, and so they were literally putting these buildings on rollers and then moving them to the outskirts of town so that they could build bigger buildings. It's a very interesting time that I didn't really know anything about.
Sure.
And this game is kind of about that. This is a game where you are going to be bidding on various building projects in the city. And those are going to cost a certain amount of resources, and if you win that bid, you have to pay those resources, and then you can put it out in the city. And then basically, however many of your little blocks that you bid with, which is kind of like your currency in the game, that's how high that building is going to be. So if you end up using 2 or 3, you'll get to put them on top of each other and then put the building on top. And generally, you want higher buildings because the whole thing is about raising Chicago up.
Yeah, you want tall building stuff. So your buildings, the things that you work on in the city, shine brighter than the rest. You'll get extra points for that. There's kind of area control in various ways. There's these kind of prestige buildings that can go out, and they have arrows pointing in different directions around them. So you want your buildings to be next to those prestige buildings. There's kind of 4 wards that are 4 areas of the board that you'll kind of score for majorities. There's neighborhood bonuses. There's a lot of tactical like placement of your buildings. There are the movable buildings that give you kind of like in-game powers and stuff sometimes. There's a lot of fun stuff to kind of consider with that in an interesting bidding kind of auction in a way game. It's really, really kind of interesting.
It's really, really cool.
Different.
It's not the prettiest game on the planet. It's a Spielworks game. No, shouts out to Spielworks.
Shouts out
to Spielworks. But it's a really interesting game. Got some really interesting mechanics and kind of took us by surprise because we hadn't heard of it. Because again, it's not super available here all the time, as a lot of Spielworks games is. We've been trying to find a copy of El Burro for a very long time. We can't because that's also a Spielworks game that's not really available here.
Help us.
But nonetheless, Raising Chicago was a big surprise for us. We really liked it a lot. Number 9 is a game that I played earlier this year, and I've been really, really wanting Mike to play, and we finally got it played, and you really enjoyed it. That's Operation Barclay.
Operation Barclay, yes. This is a poker-style card game.
It's a weird game.
About World War II and the different theaters of war, and you're either playing as the British or the Germans, and you are code breaking. So if you're the Germans, you're trying to intercept the codes that the British are kind of putting through, but they're also putting through
kind of false codes.
False codes and stuff that are going to be represented these tokens on the board. And the way that you either get to hide information or gain information, depending on what side you play, is going to be through playing a hand of poker, essentially, where you're going to have a hand of cards. You're going to be playing 3 cards face up, 2 cards face down, one at a time. The cards each have abilities and things that they do.
Yeah, usually,
they have a suit, a value, an action. There might be some other icons and stuff. And then you are going to, once we've each played our cards and done our actions and stuff, basically see who won, who had a better poker hand. And there's going to be these 3 tokens, or 2 tokens, I think, that are going to be on offer, where if you win the poker hand and you're the Germans, in the 2 regions that are showing on those tokens, you get to reveal some information. Or if you're the British, you get to say, no, you don't get to look at anything. But then also you can bid on who is going to win the hand.
Yes.
So if I know that I'm not winning this hand, my cards aren't working for
My
that.
high card of a 7 is probably not going to win.
Probably not going to do it. So I can bid that say, you know what, I think Nick's going to win. And then, Nick would also bid for himself. So you can also gain some information from those tokens if you win the bid. And then there's also these icons on the cards. And if you have the most, these kind of boat or plane icons, you get a little bit more information at the end. So there's all these different ways that you can kind of strategize your play to, either strategically win, strategically lose. The ability that each player has their own personal deck of cards that when you play a card, you're going to get a new card. But you can draft from this kind of common deck in the middle that either player can draft from, or you draft from your specific deck of cards, which might have specific events or things that happen that are all based on actual events that happened. And so like choosing where to draft from. There's kind of like a discard pile that also can at times be drafted from. So there's all this like hidden information, kind of bluffing.
Yeah, there's a lot going on.
A lot of stuff going on. And again, like you have this like war theme and stuff, and the idea like we're going to play poker hands at the center of that feels really unique.
Yes.
It's something that's like you were really charmed by, Jeff and Jamie from Foster and Meeple, who kind of told us about it first, were super charmed by and gave us a copy. So thank you, Jamie and Jeff.
Indeed, yes.
And now I've played it and I'm on the train as well.
Yeah.
I just think it's really interesting. It's a cool way to do, a game of learning hidden information and stuff.
Yeah.
And it's not just about play the strongest hand.
No, not
that might help, but like that's not even the most valuable thing you could do. Getting the bid correct while your opponent fails at the bid is the most valuable thing. So I could, project with my face-up cards a really strong hand, but that's all I got. And the 2 face-down cards are nothing because I want you to think I'm going to win, but I'm actually trying to lose. There's cool stuff you can do like that.
There's a lot of weird stuff. It really does. When we were I was teaching we were playing it, I was like, man, it doesn't feel like any other game I've played.
No.
It's just really, really interesting. It's fun being either side. Because of the British, you're just trying to deny them anything. Anytime you win, you never get anything. You're just not giving the other player something.
Your opponent.
You're just trying to time them out. It's really tough on both sides. It's pretty easy for the German side to find, because again, in the 5 theaters of war, 2 of them are like the primary theaters, and that's what the German players trying to find. It's pretty easy for them to find one of them a lot of times, but it's not necessarily easy for them to find the second one.
Yeah.
And it's just like, it's really, really interesting. It's got great production value, and it's just a cool game that the second I played it, I was like, ooh, Mike is going. I think Mike is going to like this even more than I do. And you did indeed enjoy it, and here it is. Number 8, there's got to be a Garfield game on here. This is going to be The Anarchy.
I mean, I guess we ought to.
This is kind of the pseudo-sequel to Hadrian's Wall, if you have played that. This is a, let's be honest, mostly solo game. We do have a playthrough of this one, and all the playthroughs that we have from this list will be down in the description below, so make sure to check those out. There'll be a link to this one down there.
Give them a click.
So we did play a game of Anarchy, and you can play this multiplayer, but a lot of people played Hadrian's Wall, the original one, solo. So much so that they made this one, they actually made a whole solo campaign for it, because they understand that like most people are going to play this solo, because there's nothing we can really do to each other in the game.
Not much,
So it's very multiplayer solitaire, so kind of just play it solo. But this is a game that's a big old like roll and write where you're getting resources, turning them in, and you're just comboing stuff off of other stuff and basically filling in stuff on these 2 sheets of paper that have just a billion different things on them.
Yeah, so you have these kind of 2 sheets. One half, the right side, will kind of be these various tracks you can go up, and then that'll open up access to buildings and various kind of directions and strategy to go with. On the left side, you are kind of managing your, development of war, I suppose, and the technologies that you have. And then you're actually going out, and this is something that's a little bit different than Hadrian's Wall, like you're actually going out to different locations to, you know, go and do battle and things like that to gain rewards. It's more, you know, fairly abstract. Turn in these resources and have these symbols in order to succeed and get these other bonuses and stuff. But like,
because it's a time of basically two great houses fighting each other in Britain is basically what it was. The king died, and two people thought they should be king or queen.
yeah, it's
and
a
then
real Hatsfield and McCoy situation.
Yeah, exactly.
but
and then every time
outrage.
Queen Matilda, I think is who it is.
Think so? Sure.
The queen who
Had magical powers.
one
for
side
Friday ate a lot of cake.
And it's not, I don't think it's Matilda. I'm wrong. Correct me in the comments. But nonetheless, she's attacking your castle every single time. So defense is a really big part of this game,
Yes.
where you're going to be having these attack cards coming at you every single round, and you kind of know where the attack is coming because it can be coming from various sides. It's various kinds of attacks that might be happening, and so you're basically trying to defend as well as you can from these attacks, and that's a big part of the game.
Yeah, you actually have a little sideboard that is representative of your castle, and you have like little pieces where like I'm building up my walls or my towers or my gate, and you're kind
Trying
of
to offset all this.
Yeah, and there are all these kind of dice-like things, some are four-sided that you're pipping up and increasing their strength, and you're kind of dealing with stronger and stronger attacks coming your way.
If you like combo wombo games, which if you know us, you know that we do, this game is super combo wombo. You fill in this thing, this gives you this piece. Now you can go do this, and that gives you this. You can go do that. It's all of that, which is why it's so fun as a solo game, because you just get to get into this puzzle. Like, okay, I'm gonna do this, and then I'm gonna do this, do this, do this, do this. And I really want to play the solo campaign. I actually took Hadrian's Wall, not Hadrian's Wall, the Anarchy home recently.
Try to go through.
To try and go through it at least to some degree, because the base game was really, really fun. But knowing there's a solo campaign that changed out a bunch of the cards and stuff is going to be really, really cool. The Anarchy is an absolute banger. If you liked Hadrian's Wall, you got to try the Anarchy. It's
I do
Hadrian's
think
Wall,
it's
but better.
in every way. I think it's like the 2.0, a level up from Hadrian's Wall. Hadrian's Wall was great, and this one is freaking awesome.
Yeah. Number 7's kind of a shocker for me, at least.
Yeah.
'Cause I don't like any of these games.
Well, you enjoyed this one. This is Molly House.
Yeah, I love Molly House.
And so Nick is referencing Cole Worley Games.
Shouts out to Cole. Make great games that are not for this guy.
Sure. Cole Worley Games makes games typically that are, you know, warlike and
They're not for me.
aggressive, and your heads up and battling and stuff like that. And this is a co-design about these things that were called Molly Houses in London and stuff. And these were kind of safe havens for the LGBTQ community, where, especially at that time, there was not a lifestyle that was accepted by society at large. And so we are playing a game where we are looking for our own personal joy and bringing up, like, that's our victory points, is joy.
Yeah.
And bringing up the joy of the community, and kind of finding, and what that's representing is kind of safety and security of you know, this group of people in this time. And so we're doing this through throwing parties.
Yeah.
So we have a board. It's a roll and move game.
It is a roll and move game.
It's a roll and move game that is actually good. It works. There's some mitigation and
works.
stuff.
I'm not gonna lie. Here's the thing. I still wish it wasn't roll and move. I wish it was something else.
But I like that they
do
did it,
not
man.
put roll and move in your games.
Do it, but give yourself
do
an
it.
option. So you're moving around to different action spaces and gaining cards and things like that. But then on the four corners of the board
the Molly houses.
are the Molly Houses and stuff. And so if you wind up at one of those, you can put on a party, which is a thing that everybody is going to
This game
potentially
is
participate in doing.
80% co-op.
80, 85. I mean,
Yeah,
it
it depends, especially
really
depending on how
is.
you play it. It's
Yeah.
really, it could be 100% co-op depending on how you play it.
Sure.
But yes,
And what
'cause we're throwing these parties together.
We're throwing these parties together. We're sort of talking about, like, what kind of party do you want to throw, and based on what cards
you have, really.
It's going to depend on like what cards you need to play, and so people can kind of talk about what's in their hand. Hey, I've got a jack, so we could throw this kind of party and stuff.
Because the parties will require you to have,
Like
one of them requires you to
straight.
have a straight. One of them requires you to have like pairs and things like that. So
Yeah,
you're
flush
putting
and
in these
stuff, so-
these cards, and so like, oh, I have 2 7s, so we could throw this kind of party because if you have a 7, then we can. And so that's how you're deciding what kind of party you want to throw.
And then people will go around and play cards to kind of contribute to this, but there's also a community deck of cards.
Yeah.
That'll be throwing in random cards that may help or change what kind of party you're doing.
Yeah.
And basically, the type of party you are deciding, the best cards amongst the ones that were played will be the ones that are selected that are like kind of contributing to that party. And if your card or cards are selected, that's going to increase your level of joy.
Yeah.
If the community one of their cards or both of their cards get selected because they always participate.
Yeah.
The community marker also increases in joy. And one thing that's really cool is the community marker does have to be increased. I think it was a threshold of 25
it was 30. It was
or
25 or
30.
30.
And we played a 4-player game. And
If it doesn't get to that marker, everyone loses.
everyone loses.
Yes.
So the idea is that like the community itself needs to find a certain level of security, safety, joyful living and stuff, or nobody wins. That's why it really feels cooperative. It's like, oh, you have this kind of card? Okay, well, I can commit a card that works for that party. Let's do that. And we all kind of agree at the table. And it's just a really cool.
It's really good. It's
You know,
really interesting.
different kind of game. It's not combative.
there's-
It's not fight. It's really
No.
about coming together. And then if I contribute more and I get a little bit more personal joy, then it's like a personal victory and I win. But really, it's like
care.
you have to get the community there.
Yeah,
you have to
this
bring
is-
everyone up with you, kind of.
This is like kind of like one of our most played games, if not still our most played game, which is Marvel Legendary. Technically a semi-co-op where it's like, as you're defeating these Marvel villains, you're getting victory points. And at the end of the game, you're supposed to see who has the most victory points, and that player won. I don't know anyone who's ever done that. It's like no one ever does that. Molly House is at least how I'm personally going to play it. If the community gets there, we all win. If Mike wins because he technically had more joy than me, I personally do not care. I just don't care. I don't like semi-co-op games because I just think they're unnecessary because it just creates like, oh, I'm the one who won. And I'm like, okay. Like, this was a co-op game. I'm sorry. There is a way that someone can kind of turn traitor in this game, but it's always a choice in this. I would personally never do that because it would just make me feel too bad about betraying the community. But nonetheless, it's a really interesting game. Because there's like co-op stuff, there's tons of crosstalk because you really have to talk about what's going on. There's like constables and stuff that are like messing you up because then this is a dangerous time. I mean, it's still a dangerous time for LGBTQ people, but apparently at the time people were getting hanged for this and stuff like that. So like there are constables that you're having to like avoid and stuff like that. So there's a lot of
Molly houses
crosstalk.
can get raided.
Yeah, a lot of really interesting stuff in this game, and I'm really excited to play it more. I will just be playing it co-op, because that's
the
just
way.
how I personally want to play it, and that's how it is. But I really enjoyed it. I thought it was a great game.
Man, I love instruments.
You do,
They're
man.
fun. Sometimes they break, though.
Sometimes they do break.
Sometimes they break, and you need to fix them up, and that's what you do in luthier. If
Yeah.
you are a luthier.
Yeah.
And so our next game is luthier.
Indeed.
This is one that's kind of just getting out to or about to get out to people.
Yeah, and we kind of were going to mention this at the beginning of the video, but like we're purposely not putting games on our list that like we're not sure if they're going to be out in 2025. Like sometimes we've played games because that's our job, but sometimes we're like, is this going to come out in 2025? So we're only picking games that either are out or like in case Luthier
imminent.
is like literally about to deliver.
Yeah. So this is a game where we are instrument makers.
We are
and
instruments. I'm an oboe.
We're instruments of music and stuff. And it's a worker placement game with like delayed actions.
It's almost like worker bidding.
Kind of,
in a way, yeah.
So we're going to be taking, placing out workers and stuff, and then kind of going around and taking actions in an order based on how people place their workers out and stuff. So there's kind of this worker placement phase and then an activation phase.
Yes.
And you are building instruments, doing repairs, putting on shows, all in, the time of refinement and stuff, and the rain rolls.
Yeah, because there's all
trying to be a good
these-
member of society and high society, really.
Yeah, I mean, you're basically trying, you're luthiers or luthiers, and you're different families, and you're sending out your family members around town. But the family members, like the head of the family is like a 5. They're the strongest.
Yeah.
But when you're putting out your workers on these spots, you're putting them face down. So people don't know what you are. And then when it's on your turn, you get to choose what action is going to activate that hasn't activated
Then
yet.
everybody who did that
And then
will have to
everyone
do it
gets
then.
revealed. And that's an interesting part of the game where you get to choose, because sometimes you want stuff to happen before other stuff.
Yeah.
But if someone chooses this to go first, you're like, I didn't want that to happen right now yet. So there's a lot of interesting tension in the game about bidding, and also you're like, gosh, do I think Mike put his 5 there, or can I get away with putting my 4 there? I really need to go first at this action.
Yeah, it's one of those
But
games that,
do
like-
I need to use my 5 on that?
Yeah.
And it's a really interesting. I've found that I really enjoy kind of like face down worker bidding, and I don't really know what to call it, but that's kind of what it is.
The stuff, any stuff that gives you like, okay, based on this now,
Like
there's a
Tricarion
priority.
does a similar thing.
Tricarion, Minos Dawn of the Bronze,
Yes.
it sort of does that where you have to activate a certain
Yes.
thing, and the strength means you get earlier or better access. It's really interesting.
Really, really interesting. And then you're gaining instruments. You are then building these instruments, fixing these instruments. You need to get resources. You need wood or like brass or various things to fix these instruments. You can then sell these instruments. You can kind of, I guess, just put these instruments out into the general like orchestra, and you want like really good seats at the orchestra because you want your instrument to be in the front,
to be shown
so it's
off,
just wailing on a
essentially.
freaking. Is this how you play oboe? Freaking.
It's got the little side piece though. You're like,
I don't know what an oboe sounds like. I assume it sounds like.
that
That's
is
right.
actually pretty oboe-ish.
Is that really?
That
I
is
assume.
not-
I assume it's a kind of
It's
instrument.
not-
you know,
that's not
it's a
far off.
reed instrument, right?
Yeah.
I don't know what that means, but nonetheless, you also have patrons, and they want a very specific. They're like rich people that want.
Contracts,
I want this kind of
yeah.
saxophone, and so you're building that. It's really cool. There's a lot going on. It's a big, heavy game. It's got Vincent Dutrait art. It's beautiful, and it's just
Really
about
pretty.
instruments. I really love that there's more and more games about music coming out because there's so many
Yeah.
different ways you could do games about music.
Yeah.
Because you could do it about like Draft to Write Records, which is about a roll and write about a band and stuff like
Rock
that. You
Hard,
can
it's
do
about the old rock and roll scene.
exactly. You
know?
can do so much stuff with music, and then finally, that's a theme that's coming around. But Luthier is really, really good. If you like big, heavy euros that are pretty, it's a banger.
We are in search of a new land to call home. We must prepare for hyper jump. In this new land, we'll bring prosperity.
God, man.
Hey.
What are you guys trying to leave me? You almost left without me.
Hey,
Gosh, you know, I was at the local Arby's doing my shift, and you
Yeah.
guys just like, oh. I
Yeah.
was like here, like, whoa, 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 whoa. I see the ship starting to gear up. It's
Yeah.
just me and Bruce over there.
Sorry about that, man. I thought we checked the manifest. I thought we had everybody.
Gosh,
It's-
man. I
you're
thought you were
hard
trying to leave me here on purpose. you know?
No, not that.
That's
Never
crazy.
that.
That's crazy. Hold
Yeah,
on,
no.
hold on. Bruce calling. Bruce, dude, they didn't leave. You can come over here too, man.
Yeah, okay. We said we were going to be hyper jumping as soon as he got near enough to the black hole to be sucked in. So,
Yeah, dude, and someone sucked me into a black hole, man. It was
yeah.
I barely got out of there.
yeah. So,
They got out of my ice shoes on, man. So grippy.
listen, just stuff him into a torpedo tube, and the next person that comes across our way, we'll, I don't know, we'll launch him at it, I guess, you know.
Hey, I found this hat. You guys need any leather daddies on the freaking new homestead?
Yeah, the Leather Daddy's department's over in the torpedo chutes. If you just want to go just right that way.
In Homestead Hyperjump, players are trying to get off Earth and trying to find a new home. In this game, you are all working together, and you're gonna have to go through 3 different star clusters to eventually find a Terran-like home. Every game, you will have 6 different roles like the scientist, the engineer, the tactician, the captain, and these will be distributed evenly amongst the players. All the roles will have specific things that they can do and specific things that they need to make sure they're keeping track of and taking care of. As you're going through the clusters, you will find things like anomalies, like black holes, but mostly what you're looking for is planetary systems. When you find one of these, you will go into the encounter book for that cluster. And this is where the game can really change up because there are a whole bunch of different encounters, and every single encounter is a bit of a choose your own adventure trail that you're going through. Once you make it to the 3rd cluster, if you can find a Terran planet, you will win. But if any of your various systems go down to 0, well, you're gonna lose. Homestead Hyperjump is live right now. You can check it out down in the description below. And a big shout out to Ship and Star Games for sponsoring. Number 5, how many games has you played?
Oh, let's check the
On
stats.
BGA? This
Let's
is Zenith.
check
While
the
Mike's checking, I'll talk
stats.
about Zenith. Zenith is really, really good. We finally got a physical copy, so I finally got to play it, which is great because Mike plays on BGA. I don't really play games on Board Game Arena very often because I'm just not a big fan of digital versions of board games usually.
That's right.
But Mikey has been playing a butt ton of Zenith.
I've played this 36 times,
Wow, okay.
which for us is a lot.
I've played it a couple times, but that's a lot for us. Zenith is a really good kind of head-to-head. It's either a team game, but mostly it's a 2-player game.
1v1 or 2v2. It's
You
a
can't
1v1
play
game.
at teams though. And this is a game, it's a big tug of war game.
Yep.
And this is a game where you're going to be playing out these cards and you're basically influencing these 5 planets. And when you influence them, you're bringing them to your side. If you can ever pull them off the board on your side, you get to collect them. And you will win the game if you collect 3 of the same color, 4 different colors, or just 5 planets. That's how you can win. And you're playing these cards, which will always match one of the planet colors and it'll always move that planet. And then they do a whole bunch of other stuff where they can move other planets. They can get you various resources or money. They can allow you to just put cards on your side because as you put out more cards, cards of that color get cheaper, which is great.
Yeah.
You can also like take cards from your opponent and then bring them on your side or make them discard it. You can discard it for a whole bunch of other stuff. all this crap.
There's a bunch of different cards.
There's so many cards, and just being able to play with the puzzle of all the cards and that constant like back and forth, and like I'm gonna let Mike have orange because it's too far gone, and that way I can focus on this. It's really good. I see why you like it.
Yeah, I really enjoy the heads-up nature. Every time you take a turn, you're going to play a card, and a lot of times you'll play it to your side of the board in their column. But you can also play a card to move up these technology tracks, and there's 3 factions: animals, robots, and humans. And if I discard like an animal card to do this, I'll move up the animal track.
Yeah.
But then if I move the animal track a second time, I'll get the new benefit, and then I will re-trigger all previously, reached levels on that track. So if I get to like the top of the animal track, I'm doing like 6 actions all of a sudden. So like that's really interesting. You can also become like the leader in the game, which gives you a larger hand size, more options to choose from, and different things. I just think that's super cool that you can win 3 different ways, 3 of the same planet, 4 different, or 5 total. So that's interesting. Where Nick all of a sudden has 2 orange, I'm like, well, I can't let you have that now. So I have to focus on that. And just the what do I focus on? What do I let go? How do I try to get to one of these win conditions first? I think it's super fun. It's got like a fun cartoony art style that I really like. I just think it's, for my money, one of the best like 2-player games I've played in a long time.
Yeah, Playpunk, who makes this game, is crushing. They made Captain Flip last year, which was one of our favorite games of last year. That game is much lighter, but it's so good. And I'm like, man, I hope they keep making great stuff because they're crushing it right now.
Yeah.
Next was a game I feel like we knew we were gonna like. From the
Yeah.
outset. This is Galactic Cruise.
Galactic Cruise. This is another one that we have a playthrough for in the
Down in
comments
description.
below. Luthier, which we talked about, also as a playthrough.
Yes, indeed.
Galactic Cruise is, I remember seeing like on Board Game Geek just the cover.
You're like, whoa.
Being announced, Ian O'Toole art, the name Galactic Cruise, big rocket ship. I'm like, oh, you're doing interstellar cruises and taking folks on. I was
Lost
just
in
like,
Paradise, baby.
Lost in Paradise, yeah, big Fifth Element vibes. I was like, oh, super in.
Yeah. Big heavy Euro about that.
Big heavy Euro game inspired by Vital Lacerda.
Yeah.
Like it was hitting all these things, and then we got a chance to cover it when they had their crowdfunding campaign. The game is now out.
Yes.
And it like lived up to the expectation and hype. I was just like, yo, this game is dope.
Yeah.
It's a worker placement game. You're putting out workers into your kind of, I guess, headquarters.
kinda
We all
like-
work for the same company.
It's almost
We're
like
putting-
a campus, kind of. Yeah.
And we're putting out workers, and then each worker space has 2 actions on it, and then you have the ability to put these cogs out even, where you could take actions from an adjacent space, and you're going to take 2 of the actions amongst the options that you have. And these things are going to be like getting blueprints for sections of a rocket, building sections of your rocket, getting a new rocket, developing your player board, which brings those cogs out and opens up more space for resources. All sorts of stuff.
Tons of stuff.
And then included in that, you're going to advertise cruises, schedule your cruises, and then eventually use your rockets to take patrons who you've advertised to onto these kind of once-in-a-lifetime trips. And all of these various things you are doing in order to score as many points as possible. And I think for us, like, the worker placement is interesting, where you can put a worker in some spot, but you can do multiple types of actions potentially. The theming is really fun. There's like a 0G circus, like all the little sections of the rockets are like attractions and things to do on your cruise ship, and they're like really fun and interesting. And then I think the other thing we like about this game, for being a big, heavy type game, is it's just a little bit easier to like get your resources and stuff. It's not like you don't have to think about anything or anything like that, but it's like it's not as labor intensive as some other games for just getting the stuff you need to then go do your thing. It's about like it's more about like figuring out the sequence and what type of stuff do you want to build versus how do I even get the stuff to build, which I appreciate because there's plenty of other things to think about. But anyway,
No,
I've
it's
been yammering on.
you hit it. It's so good. It's a game that we figured we'd like, and we were right. It was so good. We've gotten our copy now, and we've played it. We showed Jimmy. We actually played a big late night 4-player game of this at BGG
few weeks ago,
with Aldi and Charlie, and that was super fun, and we had a really great time. So we played it at like all different player counts. It's just really good. We have the expansions. Really excited to start folding in the expansions because I think they're just going to make the game even better. But yeah, I love Galactic Cruise. We kind of knew we were gonna, and it's a banger. Number 3 is going to be a game that I was excited for because I played a lot of the video game. This is the Elder Scrolls: The Betrayal of the Second Era.
Yes.
This is a big chip theory game. When they kind of were like, hey, chip theory is doing an Elder Scrolls game, I immediately was like, well, that's going to be interesting.
Yeah, Nick put a lot of time into Morrowind back in the day.
Yeah, bunch
then
time Oblivion.
A lot of Oblivion,
And
a lot of Skyrim.
yeah.
So Nick's been in it for a long
time. Yeah,
20
long,
years,
long.
really.
Super excited for Elder Scrolls 6, which is definitely going to come out someday.
So, I mean, it will someday.
Sure.
You
Let's-
might be
let's
75
keep saying
by
yes.
the time it happens, but...
But nonetheless, yeah, so this is, it's not based off of one of the games. Like, it's not based off of Morrowind or Skyrim and stuff like that. Instead, it's based in that universe, and it is a campaign game. But one thing that's nice about this campaign is that the campaign is only 3 sessions. So it's not like a 100-hour campaign.
No.
It's going to be 3 sessions. You can bang out all 3 sessions in one sitting. We did it. The link down in the description. We
did it
did
live.
a live stream where we played through an entire session, which is 3 sessions. Each session is usually about 2 hours. So over the span of a weekend, over a couple of evenings, you can play this game and then you restart with new characters and all that stuff, and you restart again. And I really like the concept of a campaign game that has short campaigns.
Yes.
Because I'm like, cool, we'll never play these 100-hour campaigns. We don't have time. Mike has a kid. Like, we're not doing that.
happening.
Ain't happening. But this one you can actually do. But it's really, really cool. It's a chip theory game, so there's dice rolling. There's obviously chips. You are getting characters like you do in the Elder Scrolls, and you are adding various powers onto them. You can get like two-handed skills and like destruction spell skills, all these different kinds of things. And those are most going to give you dice that during these encounters you can start rolling. And you kind of put it perfectly where you're kind of like, this is what I wanted Too Many Bones to be.
It feels like Too Many Bones leveled up.
Yes.
Like,
And I like Too Many Bones more than you, for sure.
Sure. And I don't hate Too Many Bones,
But
but
the-
there's certain things I'm like,
The biggest problem with Too Many Bones is that you're building out your character, you have very specific dice, and then you're like, okay, I'm going to use all my specific dice on this big hit. Boom, I rolled nothing.
those dice are gone now.
Cool, those dice are gone. In Elder Scrolls, you have a similar thing, but then they go into your cooldown track, and every round at the beginning of your turn, a certain amount of things will come out of your cooldown track. So when you whiff on those big hits, it doesn't hurt as much.
It doesn't hurt as much, yeah.
And that's a huge difference.
I really enjoy the fact that, like, okay, they're in the chamber, they'll come back around, it's gonna be okay, and that feels a little less punishing.
Yeah.
I really like the ability throughout your 3 sessions, you will continue to tinker with your character
Yes.
and modify the skills. And like maybe you'll be really specialized in 1 or 2 things, or you're sort of good at everything, but your player board, if you have certain skills, there's only so much space on your player board for like your stats.
Yeah.
And so if I go super heavy into destructive magic on this one row, I might only have 1 dice slot for something else if I choose to do something else with that. So it's like, okay, is it worth it to have 1 die for another type of skill? Should I go all in on this one thing? How do I balance how much health I have versus, how much magic ability and stuff? I think that kind of, I am in this limited space to build my thing, but within that I have a ton of flexibility. It's something that I always really enjoy, is flexibility within a structure. And this gives you that, which I think is so cool. You can build out a different character starting from like the race you are and stuff, and the things you do every single time. So there's these 3 sessions, but it's infinitely playable.
Yeah.
And it really does hit for our money, kind of that perfect thing of like, you're gonna play this 3-session chunk over a weekend or one big long game day. It's gonna be epic, and then we can reset. We don't have to worry about remembering what was happening in the story before. We have a new thing going now.
It's so good.
I think they crushed it with this.
Yeah.
And hitting a type of game that, I don't have the history with Elder Scrolls and stuff, but I enjoyed
you
it
don't need to.
so thoroughly.
Yeah.
Did not matter at all.
Yeah.
And for you, because you know these things, I think it's extra delicious.
Yeah. Number 2 is a solo game that you can play 2-player, and I have played a 2-player, but it's still just a solo game. And Mikey is like freaking here on this game. And this is Unstoppable.
It's so good.
Mike texted me after he played it for the first time. He's like, top 10 game of all time. Keep in mind, there's like 80 games in Mike's top 10 games of all time at
Maybe.
this point.
Maybe there
so
is.
that doesn't mean necessarily it is in his top 10, but who knows? It might be.
be.
Unstoppable is a solo Sir John D. Clare game.
Sir John D. Clare, knighted in the Brotherhood of Board Games.
Indeed, he sure is. We love John D. Clare. He's a great guy and a
does he
great
make so
designer.
many good games?
He really does. And this has a bit of card crafting. It's not the card crafting system, because that's a
Legally
that's a
distinct.
legally thing. But nonetheless, you are building out your cards. But this is a solo game that's really, really interesting. I did do a live play of it here. Again, link down in the description.
You check it out. Check it out.
But nonetheless, this is a game where you're going to have some kind of boss you're going up against.
Yep.
You're going to have a character that you are, and that will give you essentially 3 extra cards
few
in the game
unique starting
that are
cards.
slightly different. They're not massively different because you're building out your deck as you go. Because every round, you're going to get a new, what are called core cards, which is just your cards, and you get to choose from there. These are always going to be way more powerful than your starting cards.
It's kind of standard deck builder in that way, where you're like, hey, your starting cards are lame.
Yeah, exactly. And then you'll be getting that card, you're putting it in a sleeve with a threat card, but you don't know what that threat is, and it'll come into your hand. In this game, all your cards are double-sided. You'll have your card on one side and a threat card on the other side. And you'll have a battlefield with the various threats, and you're gonna have to do damage to these, play your cards with these action points, do damage. Now, the interesting thing about the game is it's this massive balancing act, because that card that you get at the very beginning of the round, that is the only native card drawing you do in the entire game.
Yep.
The only other way to get cards is by to defeat enemies.
Yes. So you get that 1 card per round, and if you had some cards left over from the
Yep.
previous round, you might have some more in hand. But every time you defeat a threat, that card then comes into your hand, and you flip it back to its good side, and then you can use it immediately for something else,
Yes.
so long as you have the ability to pay for it and stuff like that. But yeah, that is the whole thing. Is like, if a threat gets undealt with, it's going to attack you and hurt you, and
Yes.
you can get killed, and that's how you lose.
Yeah.
But also, you can be left empty-handed.
Yeah.
So you need to manage these threats, take them out to get more cards to play, to take out the next thing. There's sometimes strategic, like, holding of cards. You're like, well, I could play this card. I have an action point to spend, but I'm going to have 1 card for next turn.
Yeah.
Let me just not do
Yeah.
that. And you can upgrade your cards.
Yes.
And this is, like, the coolest
The kind
thing.
of card crafting part of it.
The kind of card crafting part of it, because so long as you have the resources to pay, you have the credits to pay, at any point in your round, you can upgrade a card from something in the market, and then that will sleeve into what you've built before and give you maybe more attack, or maybe it'll give you some money.
More actions.
Or actions and stuff like that. But on the backside of those upgrades are things that upgrade the bad side,
almost
the threat
always,
side.
yeah.
So as you're upgrading your cards and making them stronger, you're also going to make your enemy stronger, because eventually you're going to go through your deck, those cards are going to shuffle, go back to the threat side, and come back out and come around again stronger than ever before. So you are constantly leveling up your cards, upgrading your cards, but also in doing so, upgrading your enemies. So you have to keep up with the upgraded attacks that they're now doing by upgrading your stuff, but that perpetuates. It's like you're kicking the can on the road. It's like, that's tomorrow's problem. That's future Mike's issue.
I'm putting, because each card
I'm
has 2
gonna do
upgrades. I'm putting 2 upgrades on this
It's like,
bad
that's
boy.
going to be a very strong threat when it comes back around. But
and especially
that concept is so dope.
when
to
you
me.
buy new cards, you get a new card at the beginning of the round. When you draft that new card, you get a card and you put in the threat, but you don't get to see what the threat is. You just put it, the threats
So-
are face down. You put it in there, and then it's in your hand. You're not allowed to look, so you won't even know what's. Sometimes you're like, I'm going to upgrade this a bunch,
it's like, oh, that-
and then you don't even know, and then it comes back through, and you're like, oh, that's
bad.
hard. That's worse than I thought it was
Yeah.
going to be. And then on top of that, there's a kind of a time track. I think it's called the danger track or whatever it is. But a lot of the enemies will have a certain amount of attack, and they'll have a certain amount of attack with a skull. And the skull represents the danger track. And as the danger track goes up, that skull value is whatever the danger track is.
Yeah.
So even the base enemies are getting stronger
Yes.
and stronger and stronger, because as you go through the game and you're getting stronger, they're keeping pace with you the whole time.
Yep.
And it is such a banger.
Yeah,
It
I
is
just
such
think
a banger.
that ability for the game to continue to scale
so good.
as you level up, it levels up, I think is so cool. I just love the double-sided cards. Good card on one side, flip it over, bad card. It's just so genius.
I love the fact that you only draw cards by attacking is
Yeah.
so interesting, because it
there's-
makes you play, you're like, okay, no, I need to kill this because that's then going to give me a card, but it's going to allow me to keep going.
Yeah.
It's just this
And
really tough
Some
balance.
threats have when defeated things where you can do 3 damage, you can chain stuff together. There's like so many opportunities to have a cool combo go off. We love John DeClaire and their designs, and
Give me
like,
all of it. I
first
wanna
blush, like, this might be my favorite. And yeah, they've already have, I think, 1 expansion for Unstoppable. I'm like, Renegade, keep making content. I'm buying everything for
Yeah,
it.
every single
It is
thing.
so cool. It's just so fun. It's a great solo or 2-player experience.
which is mostly
to-
solo anyway, yeah.
Yeah, to get into. It's Unstoppable is truly unstoppable.
Unstoppable is great, but it's not quite number one.
I mean, you know what I mean?
If you know us, you kind of would probably think that this would be number one. This is going to be Lord of the Rings: The Fate of the Fellowship. This is Lord of the Rings Pandemic. It is a Pandemic system game by Z-Man Games and Matt Leacock. It is most like Pandemic Fall of Rome, if you have played that one, but there's definitely Pandemic-y stuff in it. There's a whole bunch of different Pandemic games at this point. And man, oh man, we are, if there's like Arwen's back there, you know, it's like,
we're fans,
we're
you
massive
know.
Lord of the Rings fans. If you watch the channel at all, there's always Lord of the Rings stuff behind us and things. We're massive, massive Lord of the Rings fans. Also, Pandemic is the game that got us into the board game hobby. It's the reason why we have this job to begin with. So a Lord of the Rings Pandemic was like, whoo, got a new pair of pants for that one.
It's about as close to a no-brainer as you could have. I think where you're like, oh yeah, that's of course going to be great for us.
Yeah, it's like,
duh.
And it is so much fun. We've played it a whole bunch of different times now. We will be doing a playthrough for it. It's not out by the time of this video, but keep an eye out because there will be one coming out. So you get to watch us play it. But nonetheless, this is Lord of the Rings Pandemic. It's very different than base Pandemic. It's almost its own kind of game, but you're going to be taking on various objectives. The final objective will always be to destroy the One Ring, which makes sense. And you're going to be playing with pairs of characters. So if you're playing a 4-player game, everyone will have 2 characters. You have like Frodo and Sam and Gandalf, and you can have Merry and Pippin and Éowyn, and Gimli and Boromir, and Arwen and Aragorn, or whatever.
Galadriel and various
Yeah,
other...
all these different pairs. And on your turn, in normal Pandemic, you get to do 4 actions on your turn. But in this one of your characters will get to do 4 actions. The other one will get to do 1 action. And then next turn, you can have the other one do 4 and so forth. You can kind of mix up. It does not always have to be that same way. And it's similar stuff where you can like move around. When you're moving around, you can bring people with you because there's a lot of stuff where you need to get people in certain places and things like that. You can exchange cards if you're in the same place. You can turn in cards to get these symbols on these tokens because unlike Pandemic, where the whole point is you gathering cards to then turn in and cure a disease, and there's a lot of other Pandemic games that have something similar to that. This one, the cards are really just symbols. That's it, because a lot of the things in the game require you to turn in these various symbols to do these things, and these symbols can come from these tokens or on the cards. But that's literally all the cards do, which is kind of crazy that that's in the normal Pandemic, cards do a whole bunch of different stuff. And in this one, they really only have one purpose, which is those various symbols.
Yeah, so the various symbols are I think it's super dynamic because they get used in various different ways. I feel like the first time I saw that being used was there was a World of Warcraft version of Pandemic where the cards were all of a sudden more in play versus like original Pandemic. I feel like you're just sort of hoarding them.
You're hoarding all the time,
for the most part to try to turn them in. So I love that you can use the cards, you can turn cards into tokens that have those same symbols as well. You're really trying to manage a lot because you're trying to get these missions done, which might require you to go to a certain part of the map or bring troops over here or have these resources spend there.
Yeah, and there's like the one ring mission you always have, but then there's like 25 other missions, and you only ever play with like 3 of them on top of the other
amount of variety.
And and like there's kind of like a standard thing you should play with your first time. We've played that one a couple times, but when me and Jimmy were playing it the other day, we just randomized the missions, and and it was like super cool. One was like a super Gandalf mission, so you had to play with Gandalf. One was an Aragorn mission, so you had to play with Aragorn.
That's cool.
And it was just like really, really cool the way you switch it up.
Yeah, and then the other thing that's really great is the way that the bad guys activate.
Yeah, the infection step,
the
right?
infection step is, the shadow is spreading. And you have a big deck of these kind of really big, kind of oversized cards with that. And each card, when you flip it out, in normal Pandemic, you would flip a card and infect that city.
Put a cube out.
Put a cube out. And here, when you flip it over, the back of each card has either this kind of banner or a Nazgul symbol. And when you flip over a card, depending on what's showing on the top of the deck, whatever is on that card back, you will do either a reinforce, where you're going to bring more troops onto the board. The Eye of Sauron will usually shift over to where Frodo is. A search might happen.
The Nazgul will move around.
Or you're going to advance troops. This is kind of the Fall of Rome thing, where there's all these different pathways, and you're going to have troops move from kind of one location to another along a certain path, which might cause, safe havens to fall, to have battles get initiated because they run into, our troops and stuff like that. There's just a ton of
It's
fun
so cool. That
stuff.
part of the game alone, if that was the only change, I think that would have been enough to warrant a new Pandemic, because it really does change up the game. Because like Pandemic, when they're now called the Sky Darkens or Shadow Darkens, something like that, those are the epidemics
skies
where
darken,
where bad stuff happens, and then you take the infection deck, which is the threat deck, and then you reshuffle it, put it back on top of the deck. That's very Pandemic. Every Pandemic has that, right? But now, the same kind of places will keep coming up because it's the same cards over and over again. But what activates on the card, again, is dependent on what's on top of the deck. So last time you might have activated the bottom of this one, and this time you might need to activate the top of this one. And it can mess you up because it could be where like each time this card comes out, we're always activating the top, and then all of a sudden out of nowhere, we're activating the bottom, and it kind of messes you up.
Yeah.
And it's really, really interesting because it makes that kind of loop that you have to do in Pandemic games where the same things keep happening over and over and over again, but then it changes it up even more.
Yep.
And then you add in the missions that you have to do on top of that. Then you add in the fact that all the characters have special abilities. Then you add in this, and then you add in that, and it's just like there's so much going on. It is a huge game for Pandemic. Like in terms of like the complexity and the amount of stuff going on, it's by far the biggest one. And it is...
It's hard
It
to
is
win. We
so
have
good.
not won it.
I have not won. I have played multiple games. I've not won. It is my game of the year so far. I love Unstoppable, but for me, Fate of the Fellowship is pretty
I
steadily
kind of
ahead.
see no possible way Fate of the Fellowship is not in our top 10 at the end of the year.
Oh,
as
yeah,
well,
for sure.
and probably in the top 5.
It would have to be. Yeah, it's so good
at the worst.
It's
you know what I mean?
so good.
Yeah.
It's so good.
It's so awesome. Anyway, that is our top 10 games so far from this year. We like to do this list because for our money, we're mid to heavyweight Euro gamer types, and a lot of those games come out at your Gen Cons, your Essens and stuff in that kind of second half of the year.
Yep.
So right before we hit convention season, we like to talk about some of these games because by the end of the year, just unfortunately the way things work, we move on to the next thing, and we want to give these games their flowers now. They may show up at the end of the year, they may not, but these games should be celebrated and played, so we do recommend all of them to you. We have 10 more games that, honestly, for this year, I'm scrolling down, there's so many games
already
that
like
we
30
really
games
like.
on our list,
which is an exciting thing. So we have 10 more games that we're going to talk about over on our Patreon, so if you want to help support the channel and get a little bit more content, go and check that out. Speaking of, you've seen our patrons
Thank you,
scrolling
patrons.
on by. We really appreciate you. Check the description of this video for links to all the various things that we've had playthroughs of, which are half or more of these. So you can check them out for yourself before you make any purchases. Anything I'm missing?
That's it.
Big thanks to Ship and Star Games, Homestead Hyperjump. Do check that out in the description of this video. There's a link to their campaign. And thank you for sponsoring this video. And shoot, That's it.
Thank you so much for watching that top 10 and our recap of halfway through the year. Big shout out to Ship and Star Games for sponsoring this one, and a big shout out to you for watching this one. If you liked what you watched, make sure to subscribe to these silly Murphs because we just silly.